Bonjour, good morning. Je m'appelle Henry Topas et je suis directeur régional de B'nai Brith Canada pour le Québec et le Canada d'Atlantique. My name is Henry Topas, and I have the privilege of serving as the regional director for B'nai Brith Canada for Quebec and Atlantic Canada. B'nai Brith Canada est l'organisme le plus vieux du pays pour la défense des droits de la personne, fondé en 1875. Et cette année, nous célébrons notre 150e anniversaire. Our organization was founded in 1875, and we are Canada's longest-serving human rights organization. In fact, we are celebrating our 150th anniversary this year. Présents avec nous aujourd'hui sont M. David Matas, président de la Société de droit Matas et conseiller juridique principal de notre organisme. Mon collègue, M. Richard Robertson, directeur de la recherche et du plaidoyer du B'nai Brith Canada, et finalement mon collègue, M. David Gronowski, notre délégué des relations intergouvernementales, est ici avec nous dans l'audience. I'm joined by Mr. David Matas, Senior Legal Counsel and President of the Matas Law Society, and by my colleagues, Mr. Richard Robertson, Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai Brith Canada, and Mr. David Gronowski, our Director of Intergovernment Relations for B'nai Brith Canada, who's here with us in the audience. Nous sommes ici pour présenter notre audit annuel des incidents antisémites pour l'année 2024. Le document est disponible en français et en anglais, imprimé digitalement sur notre site web. We are here today to make public our 2024 audit of anti-Semitic incidents in this country. This document is available both in English and in French, both in print and online on B'nai Brith's website. L'ordre de ce jour sera la présentation de notre audit par M. Robertson, suivi par mon sommaire en français de ses remarques, suivi par la parole de son éminence, M. David Matas, et finalement une brève période des questions par les membres des médias. The order of business this morning will be the presentation of our audit by my colleague, Mr. Robertson, followed by my summary in French of his remarks, and then the observations of the eminent Mr. David Matas. A brief question and answer period will then conclude this presentation. I am pleased to turn over the podium to Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Topas. Good morning. My name is Richard Robertson. I'm B'nai Brith Canada's Director of Research and Advocacy. I'm a proud Canadian, and I am a Jew. Because I'm a Jewish Canadian, I'm a member of the minority cohort that comprises less than 1% of Canada's population, yet we're the victims of 6,219 incidents of hate in 2024. These 6,219 incidents represent a 7.4% increase from 2023 and an inexcusable 124.6% increase from 2022. Over the past 18 months, a previously unfathomable new baseline for the occurrence of anti-Semitic incidents in Canada has become established. Shamefully, the unacceptable has become the new normal. The incidents of hatred towards Jewish persons that occurred in Canada in 2024 were not geographically isolated. They occurred from coast to coast. Our audit divides the country into regions based on population, and every region in Canada, except for Ontario, saw a double-digit or greater increase in anti-Semitic incidents in 2024. Two provinces, Alberta and Quebec, saw triple-digit increases of 160.2% and 215.7% respectively. Anti-Semitic incidents occurred at an alarmingly sustained frequency throughout 2024. The 622 incidents recorded in May, the 662 incidents recorded in February, and the 809 incidents recorded in December represent the single highest monthly totals ever recorded by B'nai Brith Canada. the anti-Semitism witnessed across Canada in 2024 was both shocking and horrifying. Jewish persons were the targets of physical assault, threatening harassment, and grotesque intimidation. In Canada, online and in-person hatred of the Jewish population was willfully promoted and publicly incited, and the genocide of the Jewish people was advocated for. Jewish institutions and Jewish-owned businesses in multiple cities were repeatedly the targets of vandalism, arsons, shootings, and bomb threats. With disturbing frequency, Canadian streets, classrooms, and post-secondary campuses were used as soapboxes by those who demonize Jewish history, delegitimize core tenets of the Jewish faith, and deny Jewish Canadians the reality of their own pain and suffering. 2024 saw our online realms once again play host to an increasingly distressing number of anti-Semitic incidents. Incidents of anti-Semitism occurring online increased by 10% in 2024, a 161% increase compared to 2022. This audit serves as a testament to our nation's failure to adequately address the worsening crisis of anti-Semitism that has been manifesting across our country for years. The numbers speak for themselves. Record high levels of anti-Semitism have been recorded in 5 of the last 6 years. Why have your neighbors, colleagues, and friends, your fellow Canadians, been subjected to such profound levels of hate? The answer is sinisterly simple: because they are Jewish. What does it say of our nation, our beloved Canada, when a proud and integral component of our society is permitted to be so viciously and openly targeted, persecuted, and ostracized? This is not the Canada we all know and love. This is not the Canada that celebrates itself as a bastion of multiculturalism and prides itself as a global leader in the proliferation of human rights. We have allowed a dangerous and caustic minority of our population, one that is representative of the worst of our society and an affront to our previously celebrated national character, to malign and corrupt the good nature of our entire country. Anti-Semitism is often described as the metaphorical canary in the coal mine. In Canada, the alarm bells are ringing, and as we prepare to enter a new political chapter, we cannot afford to ignore this ominous warning. The crisis of anti-Semitism worsening across the country is incompatible with Canadian morals and values. We must act now to restore our Canadian identity. 6,219 incidents of anti-Semitism, an average of 17 incidents of hatred against Jewish Canadians every day. Canada, we can and we must do better. Thank you.
Merci, Rich. Tel que noté par mon collègue, moi aussi, je suis fier d'être Canadien et je suis fier d'être Juif. Les Juifs canadiens font partie de la minorité qui représente moins de 1% de la population canadienne et qui a pourtant été victime de 6219 incidents haineux en 2024. Ces 6219 incidents représentent une augmentation de 7,4% par rapport à 2023 et une augmentation lamentable et inexcusable de 124,6% par rapport à 2022. Au cours des 18 derniers mois, un nouveau seuil de référence, jusque-là insondable, pour la fréquence des incidents antisémites au Canada a été établi. Malheureusement, ça qui était inacceptable est devenu une nouvelle norme. Les incidents de la haine envers les personnes juives survenus au Canada en 2024 n'étaient pas isolés géographiquement, ils se sont produits d'une nation à l'autre. Chaque région du Canada, à l'exception de l'Ontario, a connu une augmentation à 2 chiffres ou plus. 2 provinces, l'Alberta et le Québec, ont connu des augmentations à 3 chiffres, soit 160,2% et 215,7% respectivement. Des incidents antisémites se sont produits à une fréquence alarmante et soutenue. Les 622 incidents enregistrés en mai, les 662 incidents enregistrés en février et les 809 incidents enregistrés en décembre représentent les totaux mensuels les plus élevés jamais enregistrés par B'nai Brith Canada. C'est choquant et horrible que des personnes juives ont été la cible d'agressions physiques, de menaces d'harcèlement, des intimidations grotesques. Des institutions juives et des entreprises appartenant à des juifs dans plusieurs villes ont été à plusieurs reprises la cible d'actes de vandalisme, des incendies criminels, des fusillades et d'alertes de bombes. À Toronto, une école juive pour des filles, les enfants étaient victimes de fusillades, pas une seule fois, pas 2 fois, mais 3 fois. Ma propre synagogue à Dolores-des-Ormeaux, où je suis le canteur, a été attaquée par une cocktail Molotov pour la 2e fois le 18 décembre. Avec une fréquence inquiétante, les rues, les salles de classe et les campus postsecondaires canadiens ont été utilisés comme tribunes par ceux qui ont diabolisé l'histoire juive et délégitimé les principes fondamentaux de la foi juive et nier aux Canadiens juifs la réalité de leur propre douleur et leur souffrance. En 2024, nos espaces digitaux ont été une fois de plus le théâtre d'un nombre de plus en plus inquiétant d'incidents antisémites. Le nombre d'incidents antisémites survenus et dans cet audit témoigne l'incapacité de notre pays à répondre adéquatement à la crise croissante de l'antisémitisme qui sévit partout au pays depuis des années. Pourquoi les voisins, collègues et amis, vos concitoyens canadiens ils étaient victimes d'une haine aussi profonde? Je vous assure que cela ne serait jamais le cas. Jamais le cas si la victime était d'un autre groupe minoritaire. Que dit-on de notre nation, de notre cher Canada, lorsqu'un composant fier et essentiel de notre société est autorisé à être si violemment et ouvertement ciblé, persécuté et ostracisé? Ce n'est pas le Canada que nous connaissons et aimons tous. Nous avons permis une minorité dangereuse et caustique de notre population, représentative du pire de notre société et d'un affront à notre caractère national, autrefois célébré, de diffamer et de corrompre la bonne nature de notre pays tout entier. L'antisémitisme est souvent décrit comme le canari dans la mine de charbon. Au Canada, la sonnette d'alarme retentit et nous ne pouvons pas nous permettre d'ignorer cet avertissement inquiétant. La crise d'antisémitisme qui s'aggrave partout au pays est incompatible avec la morale et les valeurs canadiennes. Nous devons agir maintenant pour restaurer notre identité canadienne. 6219 incidents d'antisémitisme, en moyenne plus de 17 incidents haineux contre les Canadiens juifs chaque jour. Canada, nous pouvons faire mieux Et nous devons faire mieux. Maintenant, c'est mon honneur d'inviter M. David Matas à prendre la parole. It is now my privilege to invite Mr. David Matas to please take the podium.
Thank you very much. The absolute numbers and increased numbers in anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th, 2023, and the attack on Israel and the Israeli response go beyond anything we have seen before in Canada. The Jewish community in Canada has been subject to bigotry far greater than that of any other religious or ethnic minority, both on a per capita basis and in absolute numbers. To take one statistical example, according to the Toronto Police in December 2023, anti-Semitic incidents since the Israeli-Hamas war began on October 7th made up 53% of all reported hate crimes against all minority groups. Anti-Semitism in Canada is becoming normalized. It has ceased to be just a fringe phenomenon. It is becoming systematic and widespread. According to the Geneva Academy of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights, there are now more than 110 armed conflicts afflicting our planet. None of these more than 110 others present the features we see with the Israeli-Hamas conflict, a global spread of bigotry directed against those who share the ethnic or religious identity with one side of the conflict. The question becomes, what can be done about this? We in the Jewish community appreciate the funding governments have given for increased protection of Jewish community institutions, yet that increased protection does not get at the root of the problem, widespread anti-Semitic bigotry. This rapid rise in anti-Semitism, not just in Canada, but worldwide, in reaction to the Hamas attack on Israel and the Israeli response, highlights, with facts on the ground, the linkage between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionists, as the very name indicates, oppose the existence of the Jewish state of Israel. Anti-Zionists do not criticize Israeli behavior with the aim of improving that behavior. Rather, they cast blame on Israeli behavior as something inherent in and emanating from the existence of the Jewish state. The Jewish community is held responsible worldwide for the claimed faults of Israel because the Jewish community worldwide is presumed to be supporters of the existence of Israel. The Jewish community worldwide is held responsible for the existence of Israel and consequently held responsible for any claimed wrong which anti-Zionists assert emanate from that existence. This dynamic highlights the need for the widespread adoption and implementation of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism, precisely because the definition illustrates with specifics the linkage between hostility to the existence of Israel and anti-Semitism. The Government of Canada and many provinces have, to their credit, adopted the definition. The federal government has produced a useful handbook on the definition. Yet, as one can see, that has not been enough. Those who have adopted the definition need to operationalize it. In government, through specialized prosecution and immigration and admissibility hate crimes units, at universities and schools through focused disciplinary proceedings. Those who have not adopted the definition, in particular, universities, schools, and human rights NGOs, need to adopt it. Generally, when it comes to combating human rights violations, worst should come first. What that means in this context is that every institution in Canada concerned with combating bigotry, hatred, discrimination, and racism should make combating anti-Semitism their first priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matas. We'd like to open the floor now for any questions from the media.
Good morning, Brian Passy from Toronto Sun. What role do the cities play in this? We've seen a long string of disgraceful incidents by Toronto police in sort of facilitating these protests in Toronto. and last week I wrote about Ottawa Police's reaction to, saying it's no big deal that these protesters are dressed up as Hamas terrorists walking down the streets of the city. What roles do city councils and specifically police services in Canada play in sort of the spread of these protests?
I want to thank you for the question. I'm going to ask my colleague, Mr. Robertson, to please answer.
It's a great question. We need a top-down, whole-of-government approach, whole-of-society approach to combating anti-Semitism. We need to ensure that our police forces are properly empowered, that there are adequate provisions within the criminal code for the police to utilize to combat some of the criminal activity that we are seeing play out across Canada on our streets. We need to ensure that our prosecutors are able to approve charges that are being laid by the police, specifically when it comes to Section 319 style hate crimes charges. And our municipalities need to ensure that they are passing legislation that is able to adequately protect the Jewish populations across Canada. And this includes things like vulnerable infrastructure legislation. So we need to be more aggressive in our approach to anti-Semitism. We can't just rely on our municipalities. We need our federal government to take action. We need our provinces to take action, and we need the municipalities to take action. And hopefully, with everyone doing their part in ensuring that our law enforcement agencies across the country are empowered and properly tooled, we will see some progress in the fight against anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I could add to that. There was a national forum on anti-Semitism recently in Ottawa, which I attended, and there were people from various components of the system, including the police forces, dealing with the issue of combating anti-Semitism. And what I hear is there are hate crimes units now in 30 cities in Canada, which is positive. But they're not necessarily involved in all the policing that deals with hate crimes. And they could be more actively involved than they are. Secondly, we need with these hate crimes units the adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance of definition of anti-Semitism, which they don't, I mean, even if these hate crimes units exist, they don't necessarily all adopt and apply that definition, and they should. And that should come not necessarily from the police, but from the city directing the police to do that. We also need more effective prosecution, as my colleague has said, because even though we have 30 hate crimes units for the police, as far as I know, we don't have any hate crimes units in the prosecution units. And what I heard informally is that the police will go to the prosecutors, and the prosecutors say, we don't think we're going to get a conviction. We're not going to go ahead. So that stymies them. And so, as my colleague Richard Robertson has indicated, we need an integrated system where not just the police are involved, but the city government, the prosecution units, and also the courts. I mean, with the courts, there could be more judicial training and education on these issues than there has been. It's a more sophisticated problem than stealing a car or breaking into a house, which is physically very obvious. When you're dealing with hate speech, you have to understand the discourse and its impact and its meaning, and a lot of it is coded and indirect. I mean, clothing, signs, graffiti. I mean, there's all sorts of symbols that if you don't know what they're getting at, you don't understand what's happening. And so there just has to be more appreciation, and it has to be greater presentation and greater integration into the whole system. Yeah.
The issue of Canada's anti-Semitism explosion really hasn't made a lot of waves in the federal election campaign so far. What would you like to see the party leaders commit to?
Well, did you want to go?
Yes.
Well,
Go first, David.
Well, as you see, I mean, a lot of this rise has occurred since the October 7th attack and the Israeli response. And there's a couple of things that the federal government has done that I think it should undo. One is saying that they would agree to cooperate with the arrest warrants for the Prime Minister of Israel and the former Minister of Defense of Israel that were issued by the International Criminal Court. In my view, that was the wrong thing to do because the jurisdiction of the court for issuing those arrest warrants was based on a finding that Palestine was a state, which, I mean, the court was entitled to do, but that's not the Canadian position. The Canadian position is Palestine is not a state, and it's inconsistent with the Canadian position that Palestine is not a state to respect those arrest warrants. And also, the International Criminal Court has a principle of complementarity, which means that we will do nothing if there could be legal recourse within the country. And, I mean, Israel's got an independent judiciary, and in fact, the Prime Minister of Israel is before the courts right now on corruption charges. And a former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert, went to jail on corruption charges. And Ariel Sharon as a former Prime Minister, also ran into trouble with the court. So the notion that the International Court had to step in was wrong. And so one thing I would like the parties to say is we will withdraw that agreement to request with that arrest warrant. Second thing I would suggest is the problem of UNRWA funding, the United Nations Relief and Works Association, which has really become a front for Hamas as a terrorist organization. And there's lots of details about that. And the government at one time of Canada suspended funding and then resumed funding. And that, in my view, was a mistake, and I think the parties should say, no, we will not fund UNRWA. I mean, I'm all in favor of humanitarian aid, but it should be delivered by humanitarian agencies and not, in effect, by terrorist agencies, which really leads to diversion of aid and a misappropriation of aid. Okay.
Thank you, David. As well, B'nai Brith Canada has created a 7-point plan for combating anti-Semitism. 5 of those points relate directly to our federal government. We would like to see all parties commit to the adoption and implementation of B'nai Brith's 5-point plan federally for combating anti-Semitism. As Canada's oldest human rights organization and as the voice of Canada's grassroots Jewry, B'nai Brith Canada firmly believes that our 7-point plan, 5 of which are applicable to the federal government, is the best solution for combating anti-Semitism, and we would like to see the parties engage with it and to commit to its implementation.
Any further questions?
Thank you. This concludes the press conference.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Merci.